The market of real estate that I teach is a fantastic niche market. Now, what do I teach? I teach owner financing. It's a fantastic niche market, especially for the typical chiropractor. Why? Real estate investing for chiropractors or the white collar professional, meaning you have a little bit of disposable income every now and then, okay? Between the retail buyers and the full-time real estate investor. Okay, are we going to deal or compete with the retail buyers at all? Nope, not at all. Somebody fixes their house up nice and pretty, they turn it over to a realtor, they're going to get the maximum price. That's not your market. 90% of the real estate is not your market. They'll fix it up, turn it over, and it'll sell. Done. You stay away from that. That's not you. That's one end of the spectrum. Okay. So there's this real small sliver, about 10% left. Now out of that 10%, you got real estate investors. Now I'm talking about real estate investors. 80% of people who say that they're real estate investors aren't. Real estate investors are people that make a living off of real estate. Not people who dicker and dime and try this or that. In other words, if you can't make your living off of real estate, you're not a real estate investor, you're a retail purchaser. Okay? And the vast majority of people don't know how to make a living off real estate. So you have a small group of people, and it is small. I'm in this group. So I'm in the mentor group of real estate. That's the highest group in the United States. They teach the seminars. They teach how all this stuff works. They write the books on it. I'm in that group. It's in Tampa. These are sharp guys. They will eat you every day. They'll compete against you in real estate, and they know a lot of ways to buy real estate. They know a lot of ways to negotiate. They'll eat you alive. Why? So what's the good and bad news about that? What kind of property does the real estate investor need to get versus what I need to get if he needs to make a living on it? I don't need to make a living, right? We're chiropractors. I don't need to make a living on a real estate transaction, do I? I got my office. So we're going to let the retail people go. That leaves 10% of the market. So who are we competing against now? The real estate investors, the true real estate investors. Sure. Can you compete against them? I'm just telling you right now, no. And don't even try. They know their shit. I'm amazed. 30 years I've been in it, and I'm still amazed when I go, some of the stuff I hear. I'm like, damn, that was good. But what's the difference between them and you? They have to make a living off of it, which means how much more of margins do they need? Much higher margins. Now, when you go to that 10% market, what percentage of those homes have high margins? Equity in them. In other words, equity in them. The minority, less than 20%, have equity in them. 80% of them have $12,000 or less. Is the real estate investor going to make a living off that type of property? Not really. I mean, there's ways of doing it, but I'm just trying to be black and white and simple. Not really. The savvy real estate investor, he will know how to make 5 different types of money off that property. But the point is, the real estate investor has to have an equity spread. I don't know if you know this, but when you buy homes for flipping, the formula that you offer is the cost, the after repair cost, 70%. So whatever money it's going to take you to clean it up, that money plus 70%, because you want a 30% margin. That's the formula they use for flipping. In other words, they got to have a 70% margin. Well, how many homes have a 30% margin in them? Not many. The ones that do are the ones that are really beat up, that need like big major rehabs. Those are the ones that have, where you can rehab it and increase the value to get $20,000, $30,000 out of it, something like that. By the way, the average home flip is $20,000. It's not a lot. It's $20,000. That's if you do everything right. Most people get burnt because they don't calculate repairs right versus what it'll sell for, and now they go under. They lost money. That's what happens when you don't know what you're doing. And even when you do, it's about $20,000. You know, you can hear a story of somebody who made $100,000 or whatever. But that's not normal. The reality is it's $20,000 a home. That's it. Now, we are not into flipping homes because you can do way better practicing chiropractic than flipping homes. So only thing we deal with was a little bit of cosmetics. We're not doing repairs. We're not reinstalling kitchens. That's for the investors. So of this 10%, 80% of that market is you. 20% of that market is the investor market, large equities, and you can't compete with them anyway. They're good. And they're full time.
That's the guys that are paying cash for the property, right? Walk in, just pay cash.
There's a lot to it, but generally speaking, yeah. So that's your niche market. So you have these cosmetic homes that won't sell, but they need to sell. The person has to sell them. There's a divorce. There's a job change. There's a death in the family. I mean, they gotta sell. There's like a timeline for them to sell. It's typically cosmetics. They typically don't have the money to fix it up, and they can't drop the price enough to make a homeowner want to buy it. 3 out of 4 homeowners won't buy a cosmetically damaged home. When a home buyer wants a home, they want it to look fresh and new. That's great if you know how to get past cosmetics. See? You don't know how to get past cosmetics, you're going to be in the retail market the rest of your life. I'm talking just paint, you know, clean up a little paint, maybe some tile or carpet, and that's it. You know, real simple stuff. I don't even do it. My property manager does it. So this is a tremendous market. Stay away from the 90% that's out there, the pretty homes that look nice. I drive up to a home and it's pretty and all that. I'm like, no. I'll check the motivation. You know, if the motivation's high, I'm like, well, I'll go for that. But that house will sell. It won't need me. It'll sell. That pretty house will sell. So it's the 10% market, and then you're dealing with the investors. Well, 80% of those homes don't have a lot of equity. They have less than $12,000 in equity. The average homeowner stays in a home 9 years. There's 4 different levels of home, from beginner's home, the step-up home, to your dream home, to your step-down home. There's 4 different levels. And you could switch multiple times within each level. In other words, stuff's happening. Take a neighborhood, you think it's the same people there year in and year out? No. People die, they move, they get divorced. Shit happens. There's always, you take those 300 homes, there's always something happening. It's moving. Life is dynamic. I call that opportunity. That's called opportunity, is what it's called. So that's where the niche is. It's not the nice, pretty homes. It's not the high equity homes competing with the investors. It's the homes that essentially won't sell. What's the 2 reasons they won't sell? The cosmetics, and what's the other reason? The owner can't lower the price enough to get somebody to buy it. Like a regular person to buy it. How come they can't lower the price enough to get somebody to buy it? Not enough equity. Not enough equity. It costs 12% to sell a home. The realtors are 3 and 3. Closing costs are 6%. It costs, most people don't know this. You go sell a home and you sell it the normal way. You get a realtor, you use a realtor, they do a bank loan. You just lost 12% of the sale of your home and you didn't even know it. That's why you never use a realtor when you sell. I never use realtors. And I do everything I can not to use them when I buy. We'll go into that. So this is where the niche is at. And you got to know that. It's not the price homes that are going to sell easily. It's not the ones that need a rehab, that there's a lot of potential equity, because we're not rehabbing. We're chiropractors. It's the cosmetic homes, A. It's typically in high demand. There's usually stress involved. In other words, they need to get out of it. Divorce, job change, death in the family. Those are the big ones.
And you're saying the investors don't go for those ones?
They need equity. They need equity. There's not much equity in these homes.
So they'll go after it, but then once they've learned the whole thing, they back out.
Let's just stick with the basics right now. I'm just trying to simplify this as simple as it can be. Here's the pretty houses. That'll sell on their own. That's not you. The real estate investors that make a living do it, they need a lot of equity because they're making a monthly living off of it. Now, what percentage of those, that 10%, has a lot of potential equity, meaning if you clean it up and fix it up, it'll raise the equity quite a bit. 20%. So 80% of this market is market that doesn't have much equity, but that's not selling. What are the two reasons it doesn't sell? Not enough equity for the person to lower the price enough to get it to sell, or cosmetic damages. They don't have the money to go in and fix it up and clean it up to get it to sell. Those are the two reasons. And then the third reason is usually there's pain motivation. There's a timeline. There was a death in the family, a divorce, and blah, blah, blah. And then we typically pick it up at the very beginning before it hits the market, the MLS, or at the end. It won't be in the middle. It'll be in the very beginning or in the end. And so when we go into marketing, we'll look at how to go into the very beginning, and then we'll go into how to look at the very end. That's where it'll happen. I just told you where the niche is at, right there. That's what we're going to go into.